Good morning, it's Dave at All Things Important Reviews. Please smash that like button, please smash that subscribe button for more awesome watch content. Little wristwatch check, I've got on my wrist today the GST B401 AER, which is the resin band model, but I've put it on the bracelet from the G400D, and as you can see, it is beautiful. And in my opinion, Casio should have supplied this model as standard on a bracelet. Now, I thought I would do a little comparison because these are two absolutely fantastic all-round dive watches and desk divers, if you will, because they look beautiful enough to be just basically, you know, an all-round watch because of their sporty yet classy appearance. We all know, so the watch on my left is the San Martin SN017G-A, and the one on my right is the Dapix Hebros. Quick overview of specs. The San Martin is the NH35 movement, the NH35A I believe, 200 meter water resist, ceramic bezel, sapphire crystal, cyclops, two-tone, fully solid stainless steel bracelet, deployant clasp, heavy duty deployant clasp with push buttons. Super amazing all-around watch. 40mm, well 40.5mm, but it's the 40mm nominal model from San Martin, which is obviously a homage to the Rolex Submariner, the model that was produced from 2010 till 2020 with the wide lugs, because Rolex's latest one is 41mm nominal, which is only 40.6, 40.5mm, and has more tapered lugs, but is slightly bigger overall. Compared to, this is the Dapix Hebros, which is a 41mm nominal diameter, 300 meter water resist, NH36A with obviously the day and the date. This is has a more unique appearance with a more unique bracelet. Fully solid bracelet, solid end links, unusual but very comfortable bracelet with deployant clasp with push buttons and safety, with, as I mentioned, 300 meter of water resist, which does give it a little bit more extra thickness to 14mm. Let's talk about sizing. So for sizing, it's an interesting one. The San Martin is only 12 point, well, it's about 40.2mm diameter on the bezels, whereas this is more like 40.9, 40.8, the Dapix. The lug to lug is about 47 and a bit on the San Martin, but the end link to end link is about 51mm, 50.8, 51mm. On the Dapix, the lug to lug is slightly more, I think it's about 48, 48.4, something like that. But the end link to end link is even you know, is as small. The end link to end link is basically 49, 48.8mm. It's hard, you know, it hardly increases the end to end link. So whereas this is a good millimeter or so bigger because of the male protruding end links. Now, so on the wrist, you can feel, now look at the thicknesses. The San Martin on the left is only 12.7mm, which is excellent, whereas the Dapix is more like 14mm. Now, on the wrist, you can feel the extra height of the Dapix slightly, but the Dapix, because the lug to lug, the end link to end link, the lug to lug is very similar, and the end link to end link is smaller, and because the lugs are more tapered, I would argue possibly that the Dapix feels smaller in terms of wrist presence than the San Martin because of the wide flaring lugs, even though it feels slightly more top heavier because of the thickness. But the actual presence of the watch head feels slightly bigger, I think, on the San Martin. But the Dapix does feel heavier. So I'm not going to give any straight winner or loser there, because on the thickness, the winner is obviously the San Martin, because generally thinner watches are going to feel better generally. Up until a point, you don't want it too thin so it gives no weight on the wrist and it feels too thin, but the San Martin feels great. So if it was N-Link to N-Link, I would definitely give the winner to Dapix, because it does feel slightly smaller, I think, on the wrist in terms of the head size, whereas this feels thinner. So on the thickness, San Martin. On the feel of the watch head overall, in terms of its presence on the wrist, the Dapix feels smaller. So you can, if you like a smaller watch, then you probably prefer the Dapix, but the thickness may be an issue. I don't know, your mileage may vary. Okay, let's talk about the bezels. Both have a ceramic bezel. That is a nice resistance, crisp turning. It's obviously a dive bezel. Minimal back play. This is on the San Martin, obviously. Versus the ceramic dive bezel on the Dapix. Now that does definitely feel different, but it doesn't necessarily feel worse. I would say the gripping the dive bezel is slightly more difficult for some reason on the Dapix, and it's just ever so much slightly more back play. So I'll give the winner to the San Martin for the bezel. Only slight. They're both excellent bezels. There's nothing really wrong with either of them. They've gone with like gaps in the, you know, the grip on the side of the bezel. They've gone with this style, whereas the San Martin obviously just has the grips, the ridges all the way around it, which I probably prefer. Again, I will never be using this bezel. That is definitely more easier to grip on the San Martin. So in that sense, I'd give the San Martin the winner. But they're both ceramic, they're both fantastic, they both last years and years. Let's talk about crystals and dials. So they both have a sapphire crystal. Now on the San Martin, to their credit, the crystal is only a tiny bit proud of the bezel, which is what I like. I don't like it too proud or domed. I don't like it in general. And it's sapphire. Again, the crystal on the Dapix is again sapphire, and to its credit is even more flush with the dial, with the bezel, sorry. You can see it's only an absolute smidge of a millimetre, if that. You know, it's a tiny fraction of a millimetre proud of the bezel, which is what I like. Again, they both get top marks for the bezels. Is that? No, it's flat. They're both flat crystals. So I'm going to give it a draw on the crystals. Now dials, we all know where the dial has come from on the San Martin. It's obviously a strong homage to the Rolex Submariner, whereas the Dapix is not. The Dapix is a far more unique beast, and this comes down to personal preference. The San Martin definitely has a more sleekier, more contrast look in its dial. It's less busy, it's more cleaner on the San Martin, just like the real Rolex Submariner. But I think that whilst there's a market for that, and certainly I love the look of the dial, I now want something more busier, because I'm sick of seeing Rolex Submariner homages like the San Martin, because they've been completely overdone by 20 million companies on AliExpress and across the world. So I'm really happy personally now, even though I love the crispness and the cleanness of the look of the, you know, the Mercedes hands and the simple indices. And I do like the way they've done I actually do like the logo on the San Martin. I think it does work, and they've kept it minimal. They've not put too much writing on the dial. It's just automatic 200 meter. Whereas on the Dapix, you've got a kind of sub ring. You've got Dapix logo and Hebros in italics. You've got automatic professional diver 300 meter 1000 foot. Personally, I prefer the dial of the Dapix. I think it is absolutely stunning. I love the way they've done it, and I love the day date. I think it brings a level of, you know, difference as to what's out there currently on your standard typical diver. I love the fact they've got that sub ring there with the 24 and additional indices. So, numerals, sorry. So, I personally, now, I probably prefer, although I love both and they both look very different, I probably prefer the Dapix for its originality on the dial. I love it. And as I said, this is actually the crimson one. Well, it's like a burgundy one, which wouldn't be my personal favourite, but they contrast each other very well from the two-tone black and gold on this. But I can't wait to get the black one with the gold markings on the Dapix. On the Hebros, I think it would be absolutely stunning. So I'm going to give the winner on the dial, but this is totally personal preference, to the Dapix because of its originality, even though it does look somewhat like the Rolex Sky Dweller to some degree. On a dive watch, it's unusual the way they've done it, and I really like it. So I'll give the Dapix the winner on that one. For lume, which I'm not going to show you right now, but they are both outstanding on the lume. They are both excellent. The lume on the San Martin is fantastic. I'm telling you now, it is fantastic. And I think, after I tried them last night, I think the lume is slightly better on the San Martin. And the pip is also done. Is also loomed. I think the lume is probably slightly better on the San Martin, so I'll give that the winner on this one. Right, let's talk about case backs. The case back on the San Martin is super economical and plain. It is just a stainless steel, you know, pressed plate, if you will. No markings, no logo, no branding, no nothing. Super plain, like the real Rolex Submariner. Not my cup of tea personally, but I actually prefer an exhibition window. But I can understand why they've not done it, because it would affect the ability to get a 300 meter hermetic seal on the Dapix and on the. It's easier to put stainless steel there and get a better seal. So I'm not going to criticise them, but the back is obviously slightly better on the Dapix because of. Sorry, it's not focusing that. Because of you've got the model number, you've got diver professional, and you've got like a cogwheel thing like engraved there. So the winner to me is definitely the Dapix, because it has more character on the back. I don't like plain backs personally, although I know that Rolex do that and I've done it for years, but personally that's not for me. The crowns, I always leave that on as long as I can because I don't want to damage it. The crowns both feel very good. They don't feel gritty. They feel nice and crisp with the turns. They both have an emblem on, and that brings me to the next point. So for crowns, I'm going to give it a draw. I should also really give a legibility one. And for legibility, the winner would obviously be the Dapix. The San Martin, because the contrast of the Mercedes hands and the simple indices compared with the much busier dial and the much more different. The handset on the Dapix is not Mercedes, which is good. They're like arrows, and they're not as legible. Obviously, you can see that right now. So the legibility winner is clearly the San Martin. The San Martin has outstanding legibility. There's no question about that. But again, people are not buying these watches because they're going to literally go diving in, off the coast of Egypt or whatever. They're buying, and they're not buying them necessarily because they absolutely need to tell the time. They've got the phone and stuff. They're buying them because it's an item of jewellery. it's something nice to look at on the wrist, and that's why people are fundamentally buying watches in the watch community. And there's a whole social status thing and all that when it comes to, like, you know, the Rolexes and all that. But people are buying these affordable watches not necessarily for utilitarian goals, are they? Let's be honest. So it's not completely important if the legibility is not perfect. But the busier dial is obviously going to affect legibility on the Dapix, but you can still tell the time fairly easily. But I'm just pointing that out. The crowns, I'm going to give it a draw because they both felt really good when I was turning them. When it comes to branding, the branding, to both their credit, is all over the watch. San Martin have a nice little emblem on the safety catch. They have it on the crown. They have it on the dial, and it is more consistent than the previous watch I bought previously off them that did not have the crown. Did not have the emblem. Let me just show you that on the clasp. By the way, they're not scratches. That's got plastic on it still. Which I really like the branding now on the San Martin. On the Dapix, again, the Dapix branding is excellent. It's on everywhere. Dial, crown, D, with a cog thing on the back and Dapix on the thing. I think San Martin, for logo, San Martin have a better logo personally, even though some people have said it's a bit childish. I think San Martin probably have a bit, but it looks probably more classier on the Dapix the way they've done it, just more simple in capital letters, and putting the D on the side. And they've also put it on the back. So for brand consistency, San Martin have kept that logo on the back and on the front. I'll give it to San Martin, but for classiness, I'll probably give it to Dapix, because the Dapix does look more professional in total honesty with the way they've done it just in simple Dapix. Maybe we will see a logo off them on the dial of other watches that doesn't say Dapix. Maybe it has a logo like a crest or something. I'm not quite sure. But anyway, so let's get to the meat and potato, which is the bracelets. Now then, the bracelets are obviously very different. They're similar yet very different, because the San Martin, they both have fully solid bracelets. Now, the San Martin one, as we know, is homaged from where we already know. And this is a 20mm to 16mm taper, which some people have said is too significant, basically. But I'm that used to wearing a watch with this kind of a taper on this style of watch that I've got used to it so much. But on most of my other watches, they don't taper to 16mm, they taper to about 18mm. Oh, I need to screw that back in. The clasp, so it's completely solid links. They're about 3.5mm, 3.5mm thick. The edges of them are too thick, are too sharp, in total honesty. But it's still a comfortable watch. The clasp is one of the best clasps I've ever used, to simply put it. It's got heavy duty swing arms, 6 micro adjust, no dive extension, but with the push buttons, it is a joy to use, and it is super safe. It'll never come off, basically, when you're diving or whatever you're doing. So, and it also has perfect screw links on the San Martin. Absolutely perfect turning screw links. One of the best screw links I've ever seen, basically. The only issue with this bracelet is, in my honest opinion, the thickness of the links and the sharpness of the edges. That's the only thing. If they can drop this down a little bit and round off all the edges of the case and the thingy, it would be near perfect. Now, the Dapix ones is not your standard oyster style bracelet or 3-link bracelet. It is not. It's thick. Those links are thick, but they are super comfortable and they're super rounded off. Everything's rounded off, including the case. Everything's nothing sharp, which is a massive plus against the San Martin. And the clasp is smaller and not as heavy duty. You know, the shell of the clasp is only pressed. It's not super thick metal, but the swing arms are heavy duty. There's no question about that. So the clasp is not as heavy duty, and the mechanism is not as perfect as the San Martin, but it is smaller and weighs less, and so arguably it would be more comfortable. Now the San Martin, sorry, the Dapix taper, this is about 19.7, 19.8 mil, so call it 20 mil nominal, and it tapers to about 17.8 or 18 mil nominal. So it's 20 to 18 versus 20 to 16 on the San Martin. You can't even really tell there's much of a taper on the Dapix, but it feels very balanced. Remember, the Dapix is 41 mil and it's 14 mil thick. It's 14 mil thick, so they can't taper this down to 16 mil. It would feel too flimsy, in my opinion, if they tapered it down too much. So I'm glad they've only tapered it down to 18 mil on the Dapix. Whereas this one does kind of suit 16 mil, although 18 mil would work as well, but 16 mil is what we all know the company who's done that and why they've copied that design. So the bracelet on the Dapix does have polished centres, but not completely. They're the inners. For extra pizzazz, they've only polished the inners, if you will. Not the centre pieces, but like the inners of the centres. And the links are only push pins. They're not collars. They're just a single pin. But you do have arrows. Super, super, super easy to change the bracelet. The bracelet, I'll just try them both on for you to show. I'll put the San Martin on and I'll put the... Wow. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I mean, I have to give credit to San Martin for polishing them centre links. A lot of companies do not do that. They don't polish the centres and it doesn't look as good. Centre polished, if you're going to go two-tone, has to be done, in my opinion. Now, that they do feel similar, but at the same time they feel different, if I can say that, because it is definitely thicker. You can clearly see it does look thicker as well on the Dapix, and it looks, I mean, the big flaring of the lugs on the San Martin does give it arguably bigger wrist presence because the lugs flare so much, but it is quite a bit thinner, and the lug to lug or the end link to end link is overall smaller on the Dapix. So it's interesting, really, wearing them together. They're both comfortable watches, there's no question about it. You can feel the more stronger, sharpness, if you will, of the edges of the case and bracelet on the San Martin compared to the Dapix, which is beautifully rounded off correctly. You can see the size of the clasp there. The clasps are clearly smaller on the Dapix. I think if the Dapix was 1 mil thinner, the Dapix would be the clear winner overall for comfort and fit, I think. But because it is slightly more top heavier, I think some people are going to prefer the more thinner San Martin if they can look past some of the case sharpness and thingy. But the bracelet is comfier because of that on the Dapix. The Dapix gets the winner for comfort on the bracelet, and even though the links are still very thick on the Dapix, these links, they're not a standard 3-link, and they're even more articulate, if that's even a word, and they give excellent articulation, and they're super comfortable, and they fit the watch very good, considering it's a big fat head. Whereas this one, again, I believe is a bit overkill in terms of the thickness, and is unnecessarily sharp. But again, I don't want to overblow the sharpness. It's not going to, kill you or anything like that. It's just, you do notice it a little bit compared to the Dapix. But so I'm going to give the winner on the bracelet to the Dapix. I'm going to give the clasp to the San Martin. The San Martin has a better clasp, in my opinion. Although, again, the weight is going to be better on the Dapix, and it's smaller, so the comfort's going to be better. But you've only got 3 micro adjust there on the Dapix compared to the San Martin. I've compared these watches because, principally, they're both divers. They both look like they're all-round watches, which I absolutely love. Personally, I don't like tool-looking watches. Personally, I do not like super tool-looking watches. I want my divers to look all-round classy. And the Rolex Submariner, which the San Martin is homaged from, is my all-time favourite watch, basically. Okay, the two-tone, the bluesy is my favourite, actually, but the blue, gold and silver, but this is the black, gold and silver in San Martin, which is very similar. So, which is why you can clearly see why I love both of them, because they both look like all-round watches. If you can, get both. But I've compared them as well because the pricing is very similar. The pricing in British pounds is going to be around 160 odd, 170 odd quid in British pounds, probably, right? Because they're both under 200 euros, or they was last time I checked. I mean, San Martins have deals and fluctuates all the time, so maybe that's wrong, but they're both, I think, RRP above 200 euros, but with deals on at the minute, you can get them cheaper. So the GBP is going to be around 160 or 170 odd quid. They're both practically unbeatable for the price, other than some of the G-Shocks I've shown you, which are slightly more expensive than anyway. I don't think you can get watches that are as good and made anywhere off any company in the world for that price. The Dapix is an absolute bargain. You're not going to find another watch like it for anywhere near the price. It's almost a winner, just below £1,000 if you want an automatic watch. I mean, if you was going to spend £1,000 on a watch, I'd probably get a Tag Heuer or a Longines. I'd get one of their divers, and I'd probably get it in quartz personally at that price level. You know, I'd get something like the Aqua Racer or something like that. Whereas this Dapix, I've worn an Aqua Racer, okay, and this Dapix has quality in many regards above it. The only downside to the Dapix is going to be for some people is because they've tried to get the 300 meter water resist. Obviously, I've not tested the 300 meter. I don't have the the capabilities to do that. If I did, I would do it. Obviously, I know I Like Watches has some capability to test. I don't know if you can test 300 meter, but you can test some of them. I can't test that. I can take it swimming, but I can't test that. So I'm just going off the nominal specs of the manufacturers, and it's up to you whether you want to trust those specs in terms of that. Because for Chinese AliExpress sellers, I'd be very careful about that. I'm just giving my opinion on that one. So, I mean, which one do you buy? I'm going to honestly say get both if you can. They both look different. They both are fantastic watches, absolutely all round fantastic. They both look like, 10,000 bucks. They don't look anywhere near the price that you paid for them. They're both outstanding, amazing value. They're both largely comfortable watches. Both of them can be swapped for rubber bands, no problem. Because they're both 20mm lugs essentially. They can both be swapped. You can get some great rubber bands. Bear in mind the thickness is going to affect the comfort of the rubber band and the top heaviness, whereas this one probably suits a rubber band even more, the San Martin. But they're both absolutely outstanding. If I had to pick one and one only, because I've been completely spoilt with these homage watches, I would go with the Dapix personally, or as an all-round one, and I'd get it in the black and gold if it was possible and available, whereas it's not at the minute because they've not got stock. If so that's an unfair comparison, but my favourite would be that. As I said, Dapix are not currently selling into the UK. You'd have to get it off some type of third-party supplier if it's possible, or eBay or whatever, and you can't get the full colour range that they offer yet because of stock issues, whereas San Martin you can get what the hell you want basically. So in that sense, San Martin wins. But my personal favourite is the Dapix. I absolutely love it. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful watch. I'll be picking it up in more different colours, but as I said, both of them are absolutely fantastic choices. If you want a dive watch below 500 quid or even below £1,000, there's not going to be many out there other than like the Tag Heuers and Longines that you're probably going to get second hand for less than £1,000, and they're probably only going to be quartz that are going to be, or if you go into the G-Shock range like I do, that have functions like tough solar, solar powered and radial time, which I really love. Other than them, there's not many that's going to be better than it, and definitely not under a dive for a true dive watch. So they are fantastic value. They're in a brilliant league, and I do prefer now, I prefer this to the Chronos. I prefer them both to the Chronos. I prefer the heavy duty design of the San Martin to the Chronos and the Dapix. So if you're going to buy them, please use my affiliate links. I'm not affiliated. The link for the Dapix is not affiliated, but the link for the San Martin will be. It just helps me grow the channel and get more watches to review for you. So thanks for checking out my review. Have a great day. Loads of watches coming up, loads of reviews coming up. It's been Dave. Nice one.